kids.
Tell you what I don't like.
What's up, YouTube, and welcome back to my channel. So today's vlog is going to be a little different. It's not quite a tutorial, but it sort of kind of is, because I'm going to give you my 5 tips to surviving a hospital stay and making it as easy and as borderline painless as possible. As you can see, from my attire and the surroundings, I am currently in the hospital. I have multiple sclerosis, and right now I'm having a flare. So my right leg, I can't really move it, like it's kind of just there. So I'm in the hospital getting 3 days. They're talking about 5, but hopefully today is my last day. But this is my 3rd day of getting IV steroids, and I can't really show you, but yeah, I try to bring in the camera. Yes, so right now I'm getting my steroids. My IV is in my hand, so you're only going to see me moving this hand. But okay, so I have 5 tips, and we're going to start with number 1. Number 1 is do everything before you come. I know, unless your leg or your arm is falling off, you probably have some time to get in the shower, brush your teeth, put on comfortable clothing, all of that before you come to the hospital. And here's why that is my first and most important tip. Because the wait times for the emergency room are astronomical. Of course, there are other factors, it depends on what time of day you come, what the population is in the surrounding area of the hospital. Depends on how crowded the emergency room is. But 9 times out of 10, the wait is going to be very long. So if you have a nice pair of sweatpants, put on the sweatpants, put on the t-shirt, be as comfortable as possible. Make sure you bring a jacket because hospitals are freezing. So those are just off the bat. Wear something comfortable, take a shower, brush your teeth, all that before you come, because you can be waiting for a very long time before they decide whether or not it's just going to be a quick emergency room visit. They're going to patch you up in the emergency room, you get to go home, or whether you're going to be in the emergency room for a lot of hours and then they're going to keep you and admit you and then wheel you upstairs to a room. Personally, for this hospital visit, I was in the emergency room for about 10 hours before I got wheeled up to a room. I spent the night in the ER. I got to the ER at 11:30 in the morning. By the time I got to this lovely hospital room that I am in now and wheeled upstairs, it was 2 o'clock in the afternoon the next day. So the wait can go a long time. And then of course, if you're in the, I was in the emergency room, so I didn't have my own personal bathroom like you do when you have a hospital room. I didn't have my own, I just kind of had an exam room. The rooms that they have in the emergency room, that's what I had to sleep in. And when I originally got here at 11:30 in the morning, my bed was in the hallway. So I didn't have any kind of privacy, nothing of that sort. My bed was in the hallway, and it was in the hallway from 11:30 in the morning until about 9 o'clock at night, before an exam room in the emergency room opened up and then they wheeled me in there, because at that point I had been admitted, so they at least wanted to give me some kind of space, so that's where I went. So definitely I showered before I came, brushed my teeth before I came, all of that, because I was in the emergency room and without any sort of privacy for a very long time. So do all that before you come, so that you can at least be as comfortable as you can possibly make yourself, because being in the emergency room, it's not very comfortable at all. So that is my first tip. I have my list over here. It's like on the back of my menu because I don't have any paper. But tip number 2. Okay, so for tip number 2, it kind of coincides with number 1. When I said dress comfortably, you also have to dress smart, because you're going to end up, for as long as possible, you don't want to end up in a hospital gown. It's already cold, and the flaps and the ties and the buttons and everything on this, it's annoying. So for as long as you can possibly stay in your own personal clothes, I would suggest you do it. So if you are going to, like, if they're going to need a CAT scan from you, or if they're going to need an MRI from you, all of those things, those machines have a very, very, very long waiting list. You're having to compete with the people who are already admitted and are in the upstairs floors. You're having to compete with other people who are in the ER, and they kind of like triage you all based on who needs this test done first, and that's kind of the order that you get placed in. So on top of that, the machines themselves take a very long time. Just to get an MRI for all the things that I need to be tested for my MS, it is 3 hours to get an MRI. So you're having to wait 3 hours for the person to go ahead of you, and then you can always get bumped out of line based on what someone in one of the upstairs floors needs, or if someone else comes into the ER and they need an MRI ASAP, you get bumped further back on the list. So not all the times are you waiting to speak to a doctor. You could have spoke to a doctor, a nurse, they could have drawn blood, you got your IV in, and you could still be waiting for a good 6-7 hours because you're waiting for your spot to get all these tests from these big machines. And so because of that, in those rooms with those big machines, metal is a no-no. An MRI is a giant magnet. If you have any sort of metal in your body, you need to let them know that. I have an IUD, so I even let them know that, like, I have this, that's the only piece of metal in me. My earrings, glasses, rings, if you have like a pacemaker, and they'll ask you all those things. They'll go through a list of like all the things, metal that you could possibly have in your body, just in case you forget anything. But still, just less is best when it comes to having to get tested by those kinds of machines, because you don't want anything getting ripped out of your body. That's not okay. So try to come with no metal. Bras for the women, any like little, like, it's not the time to be cute. So like any little embellishments on your underwear, you're going to end up having to take them off. So it's better to come in a sports bra, plain pair of underwear. Those are the best thing because there is no wire in them, and you won't have to take them off, and you can still be somewhat comfortable while you're waiting in the hospital, and also while you're having to get these tests, because then you don't have to put on this gown. And you can stay in your regular clothes. And also, this is just like a little side tip to if you're having to get those other kinds of tests, especially an MRI. Like I said, an MRI for me is 3 hours long, and it is a very loud machine, and you're in like a little tube. So if you're claustrophobic, like I was in the beginning, just because they lay you out on this table, and then the table goes back into this little tunnel where all the magnets are, and then they have like this cage on your face, and also this collar around your neck, so that they can get the pictures of your spine and the pictures of your neck and of your brain and everything. So it can be very claustrophobic. My tip to you is try to go to sleep as best as you can. I've had MRIs at different hospitals where some of them have the headphones that they'll put on you, and they'll play like what your favorite music is, who your favorite artist is, and they'll play music along those lines to kind of help soothe you and make you forget about where you are and all the things that you have all over. So other hospitals I've been to don't have the headphones. They don't have like the little screen on top where like they show you pictures of islands and beaches and just other soothing things. I've been to ones they don't have that, and all they have for you are like the little earplugs, and you got to figure out how to calm yourself. So my best tip on calming yourself, go to sleep. I know the machine is loud, but like if you have to make a little song in your brain that goes along with all the beeps and the boops and the loud noises. Like, you got to turn it into background noise and just go to sleep. I promise you, it will help you get through it that much faster, and you won't even realize that you've been laying in this tunnel for 3 hours. And they also give you like a little balloon that you can press if you just really need to come out and just have a breather and see daylight and outside and some sort of anything but that tunnel. You can press that, but then keep in mind that the more you press that balloon, the longer it takes for them to complete your MRI. So I try not to use the balloon. Tip number 3, don't be afraid to ask. You are the patient. Most hospitals have the patient's bill of rights of all the things that you are allowed to ask for. Don't be afraid to. You're allowed to ask the nurse if they wash their hands. You're allowed to ask the tech if they wash their hands. Anyone who is dealing with your care, you are allowed to ask certain things of them. You are allowed to refuse certain things. Like right now, because I'm not moving as much as other ambulatory patients, I have to get a heparin shot in my stomach like every 6 hours to prevent me from getting blood clots. I'm not big on needles, so sometimes if I really haven't moved that much during the day, I'll let them give me the heparin shot in my stomach. But if I've been up and I've been going back and forth to the bathroom by myself, I've been walking by myself, been moving around, they'll come in to tell me that they're about to give me the heparin, I'll refuse it. Like, I've been moving around all day, I don't really feel like I'm going to get a blood clot today, I think I'm good, I don't want it. And they respect that, and they don't give me the heparin. So you are allowed to ask, what is this medicine that you're about to give me? I don't really think I need it, I don't want it. You have that right. Also, you are also allowed to ask, so for different nurses, for different, for example, the IV that I have in my wrist is the second IV that I had to get since I've been here. When I first got to the emergency room, they put the IV in my arm, like right there where they normally draw blood from, right in the center where your elbow bends. Normally people try to avoid that area because then you have to keep your arm stiff for the rest of the day because you don't want to kink up your IV line and then they have to give you another one. But the way the nurse put it in, it infiltrated, which means that the IV came out of the vein and was kind of just pumping the fluids into the surrounding tissue in my arm. So my arm like blew up because it was full of fluid. So they had to take that one out and put a new one in. But before they found the vein in my wrist, on the opposite side, I got stuck at least 3 other places. Don't become a pincushion. Do not let them turn you into a pincushion, because there is a difference between being the person who does the sticking and the person getting stuck. So do not become a pincushion. My limit is 2. If you can't find a vein and get that IV in 2 tries, I'm gonna need you to call somebody else. Most hospitals have a phlebotomy team where all they do all day long is stick people. That is it. That is their job. That is their perfection. That is all they do. So they have phlebotomy teams where if your nurse can't get it in 2 tries, I'll ask for the phlebotomy team because they're not afraid. Like, if you're one of those people whose veins just kind of like sit out on top and you can like see the road map all over your body of where your veins are, I hate you, but good for you. Okay, I'm not one of those people. My veins are deep. So a lot of people don't like to look very much for my veins because they can't really see them and feel them as easy as they can for the people who have a road map of veins just sitting right on top of their skin. But so they go for like the easier veins that'll pop up instantly, like the veins in your hands or the veins in your wrist or things like that, which is cool sometimes, but getting an IV in your wrist or in your hand hurts like fire. So I hate for those veins to be used. Like, those are a last resort vein for me. I would rather you look for the ones that are bigger and that are in, then are just a little bit deeper but will last a little bit longer, and I won't have to have my arm stiff for 3-4 days. So ask for the phlebotomy team. It's not like you're trying to hurt your nurse's feelings or anything like that, but again, there's a difference between being the person who sticks and the person getting stuck. All right, you have to feel that pain, and to sit there and just let them keep pricking you and pricking you and pricking you and pricking you, it's not okay. So don't be afraid to ask. You have the right to ask, and the only person's feelings who should be under consideration are yours. That's it. Nobody else. They're not that important. So tip number 4 is be a part of your care. It kind of ties into tip number 3, but being a part of your care, make sure that you know what your doctors are planning. What is the course of action that they're recommending? And does it work for you? Just because they say, like, oh, this is what we want to do, this is what we think is best, your opinion matters too. Again, it's your body, it is your care. You have the right to say what is and is not going to work for you. So like when I first got diagnosed with MS, I actually had a doctor come into my room and tell me what he thought the best course of action would be, and I completely disagreed with it. But he was like, well, you know, it's what works best for your insurance. And when I asked him what he meant by that, it wasn't what worked best for my insurance as in what my insurance would cover. It was just that it would save my insurance company money. So that is why he was choosing to go that route, to save money for my insurance company. So I politely cursed him out and then kicked him out of my room until he realized where his allegiance lies. And you are allowed to do that. You are absolutely, positively allowed to do that. Listen, if a doctor comes into your room and they've got dirty fingernails, dirty shoes, don't wash their hands, all of that, you can politely tell them to get out until they get their life in order, and then they can come back in. You are allowed to do that. But in that circumstance, oh yeah, my machine is done. But you are allowed to kick them out. And here's why I kicked him out. Because my insurance wasn't who was laying in the bed. My insurance wasn't who was in pain. My insurance wasn't his patient. I was. And for him to verbally tell me without any sort of hesitation or problem that the reason that he was aligning my care in such a way was to save my insurance company money versus putting me first as the priority and the patient, he had to go. He really had to go. You are the patient. You are the person in the bed. You're the person with the issue. The insurance company got the money. You pay the insurance company pays the hospital pays the doctor. Listen, without you, nobody gets paid, okay? So you have to definitely be a part of your care, and if you and your doctor don't agree, then you're just going to have to come to some sort of conclusion where it's like, okay, this is what works best for me, this is what you think the best course of action is it in my best interest, does it work for me, is it something that I know that I'm going to be able to continue once I leave this hospital. His care plan and my life and the way what I knew that I could do didn't complete each other, so he had to go. All right, but be a part of your care. You are allowed to ask what medicines they're giving you. You're allowed to ask why you're being given that certain medicine. You have that right. It is your care, so definitely be a part of it. Take an interest in it. Don't just lay there and allow them to do stuff that you're not okay with. Okay, no, don't get me wrong. Don't just make impossible demands of your doctors and nurses, because they're only human and there's only certain things that they're able to do. But you definitely still can, ask your questions. you definitely can still, want to be kept in a loop. Like, that is a must. You should always be in the loop of what your care plan is. But, if there is like a medicine that they recommend that they think would be the best for the right reasons, look it up for yourself. Take it into consideration before you just outright reject it. Because the substitute could be worse. Like, when I first got diagnosed, I was like so gung-ho, like, yeah, I want this particular medicine. Now, this particular medicine will require me to give myself a shot every day. But I was so like, oh yeah, I'm going to take this medicine. This is the medicine I want. And my neurologist at the time was like, no, I love the spirit, but I think you should take this medicine because you're only giving yourself a needle 3 times a week. So at first I was like, no, I want the other medicine, that I looked up. But after talking with him and like really coming to terms with myself of like, okay, you don't like needles. And yes, you're saying it right now that you'll be able to give yourself a shot every day. You know good and damn well that when you get home, you are not going to do that. Like, you're just not. So I took the doctor's recommendation, got the medicine that I needed to take 3 times a week. And even then, I would skip doses because I just hate needles. And having to give myself a needle, that was just impossible. So don't just reject stuff offhand. Like, definitely do your research. Have an in-depth conversation with your doctor and come to a mutual decision. Tip number 5. Don't try to overdo it, okay? Just because you start feeling better doesn't mean that, like, you need to go try to run a marathon. Like, take your time. Rest as much as you possibly can, and I know that's very hard to do when you're in the hospital because they wake you up at night like every 4 hours to take your vitals. Like, if you have to get your blood sugar checked, to prick your finger, take your blood sugar, it's easier said than done in the hospital to rest. But try, because honestly, and it's kind of cliche, but like, rest does help your body recuperate. So try to rest as much as possible. Take your time. Like, and don't be afraid to ask for help. If you have to call the nurse to say, hey, kind of got to go to the bathroom, can you help me walk there? Do that, because that is what they are there for. So use that to your advantage. Call them if you need help. Call them if you're in need of something. Most of the time, they will be happy to help you because it's what they're there for. So take your time getting better. It's not a race. It's not a competition. You want to get back to your original state. Like, you don't want any sort of lingering side effects or residual side effects of what happened to you to last longer than it should because you rushed the process. If your doctor recommends, like, oh, we think you need to be here for 2 more days, is it going to suck? Yeah, a little bit, because by day 3 you're going to be ready to go. Like, it's day 3 for me and I'm already ready to go. But if my doctor comes in after they've talked to physical therapy and they come and say, you know what, I think you may need to be here for another 1 or 2 days, is it going to suck? Yes. But am I going to stay here? Yes. Because I don't want any lingering effects when I could have just stayed for an extra 1 or 2 days and had a better chance of getting completely back to baseline of where I was, walking on my own, taking care of myself on my own, all that, not really needing help to get up and down the steps, to bathe myself, could walk myself to the bathroom. I want to get back to that level. That is the goal, is getting back to your baseline, being self-sufficient. So don't rush it at all. I just realized my TV wasn't on mute. But don't be in a rush with your care. Do not rush your care at all, because you want to get back to your baseline of being completely self-sufficient, being able to do everything for yourself. So that is what you want to get back to. So don't rush it. Rest. Take your time. Don't try to like turn right back into a superhero and like multitask. Like, if you have a problem walking, focus on the walking. Like that is your main concern, is you getting back to the point of where you were before. And if you can't talk while you're walking, then don't talk. Focus on making sure that you get one foot in front of the other without feeling dizzy or without being wobbly. Like, that is what you need to focus on. And if you have to use a cane, or they recommend that you use a walker, do that. Like, I'm going on 30, and when I first got here, I had to use a walker. Did I feel a little out of place and a little crazy, like to be so young and be using a walker? Yes. But did I use it? Yes. Because I'm not trying to fall. Like, I feel like it would be more embarrassing to fall than to be seen pushing around a walker. But that's just me. Okay? That's just me. So don't be in a rush. Take your time. Worry about your health. Give your body a chance to get back to baseline. That is the goal. You want everything to heal correctly. You want to get back to your normal self. And so your body's going to need time to do that. Let it have the time. Alright guys, so that is it. That is my 5 quick tips on how to survive your hospital stay. I think they're like polishing the floors. But that is my 5 quick tips on how to survive a hospital stay. So please, if you have any other tips, tricks, questions, please leave them down in the comment box below. And don't forget to subscribe and hit that little notification bell. And I will see you guys in the next one. Bye.